Hey guys, my name is Kelsey. I actually am starting a brand new channel. My last channel got taken down. It was gaining some good momentum. I was having fun with it. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and then YouTube completely deleted everything. Spotify took me off Spotify, so I'm restarting completely fresh. My old channel was named Carrie Perry, and now I'm just going to go by my regular name. Can call me Verdi, Kelsey Verdi, because I'm not going to talk about conspiracy theories or just crazy interesting things like that. I'm simply just going to talk about real life insanity that we see right in front of our eyes, and how Trump, in my opinion, did not divide America. The woke did. The woke crowd. As these podcasts go on, I will talk more about my support for Trump, how I became a Trump supporter after being a Hillary Clinton supporter, how I was a registered Democrat, and now I'm still a registered Democrat, but one who voted for Trump, and how I was a liberal, and now I'm, I guess, more conservative. Socially, I'm a very liberal person. I believe in, social justice issues. But what the left has become is so radical. I had to dismiss myself from them. Extremes on both sides can be too much for anybody, but it got to the point where I did not resonate with this woke crowd. So I'll explain that as time goes on. Hopefully this channel gets some traction. If not, I just enjoy doing these anyway. And I had some other people who would do podcasts with me, and they'll join me along as time goes on as well. But less about me this time, more about the absolute insanity we have been seeing in the media. I wanted to start this podcast back in November and October as an addition to my YouTube channel that got deleted. But when Trump lost the election, I thought maybe the woke crowd will kind of settle down now that Trump's not in office. Why did I think that? They've gotten worse. They've gotten worse because I think they feel like they're in power, so they can say whatever they want now. I don't believe they're the majority. In fact, I think they are a very slim amount of people. They're just very loud people. They have the media on their sides. They have journalists who are part of this woke crowd. And they even have legislators and politicians. These people are loud, but I don't think they're the majority. So this is actually what triggered me to even pursue this podcast, was this article that came out not too long ago, earlier this week. What can you do about the Trumpites next door? So I'm going to go through this article, and I'm going to... The heck? Dog's barking. No, I'm going to go through this article. I swear I wished this was satire. So I kid you not. The premise of this article is a leftist named Virginia who had to explain her emotional roller coaster after a Trump supporter plowed her driveway for free without being asked. Okay? So the article goes, "Oh, heck no. The Trumpites next door to our pandemic getaway, who seems as devoted to the ex-president as you can get without being Q fans, just plowed our driveway without being asked and did a great job." Okay, so one thing you get as being a Trump supporter, and if you're a Trump supporter, I'm assuming you are, or you probably would not have made it past like the first few sentences of this podcast. But if you're not a Trump supporter and you just kind of want to listen, good for you, because I don't know many people who would do that who aren't Trump supporters. But so if you're a Trump supporter, almost anything you say to a leftist will come back with one or two or both responses. One, you're a racist, no matter what it's about. It could be about what color the sky is that day, which right now it's very white. Or two, you get told that you are a QAnon theorist, again, despite the debate. It could be about something that is happening directly in front of our face, but they will deem you as a QAnon conspiracy theorist just so they can disengage immediately. And it really makes no sense because most Trump supporters don't follow QAnon and have never even been on QAnon's website. I love how this chick, Heffernan, just had to add the Q part to it, despite them not being QAnon supporters. Okay, moving on. Of course, on some level, I realize I owe them thanks. And man, it really looks like the guy backdragged the driveway like a pro. But how much thanks? These neighbors are staunch partisans of blue lives, and there aren't a lot of anything other than white lives in this neighborhood. I want to ask this Virginia person why she's living in such a predominantly white neighborhood. It didn't even take, by the way, like 4 to 5 sentences before this leftist had to bring in race into this satanic act of snowplowing. It literally takes nothing for them to instantly bring in race baiting. It's all they have. Leftists are like literally pathologically obsessed with race. It's very weird. Okay, so moving. So anyway, so those neighbors are staunch partisans of Blue Lives Matter, and they aren't a lot of anything other than white lives in this neighborhood. This is also kind of weird. Back in the city, she says, people don't sweep other people's walkways for nothing. Who lives in the city? Is she talking about white people, black people, leftists? Maybe, she said, it's like what Eddie Murphy discovered in that old Saturday Night Live sketch, White Like Me. He goes undercover in white makeup and finds that when white people are among their own, they pop free champagne and live the high life. As Murphy puts it, slowly I began to realize that when white people are alone, they give things to each other for free. So here she talks about white people, and then she talks about city people, and then she talks about Eddie Murphy and his skit White Like Me, and she notices that, or Eddie Murphy notices that when white people are around each other, they give each other free things. So okay. So she uses this scenario that Eddie Murphy, the big researcher that he is, as a way to insinuate that it's because she was white that he did this. Anyway, so this is where it gets good. Hezbollah, the Shiite Islamic political party in Lebanon, also gives away free things. That's where she's heading. The favors, she says, Hezbollah does for their people in cities like Tyre and Sidon probably don't involve snowplows, but like other mafias, Hezbollah tends to its own. Exactly. See, the Shiite, sick, elderly, and hungry. They offer protection and hospitality and win loyalty that way. And they also demand devotion to their brutal us versus them anti-Sunni cause. I mean, she's literally comparing, and this is what leftists do. They're very hypothetical. Instead of giving us concrete proof that he is a racist, they have to use hypotheticals and like these analytical ways to compare Trump supporters to Islamic terrorists. Okay. What she is saying is that mafias and Islamic terrorists do nice things to the people that they are trying to win loyalty. First of all, Virginia, I don't believe this man with a snowplow is trying to win your loyalty. I just, going on a hunch, I really don't believe this is what he was trying to do. But it gets worse, of course, because she can't just end it there. She needs to give another hypothetical so that she can double down that hypothetical actually works in her favor, because this is how she attracts emotional people. Because any idiot who actually is following her and agreeing with her only wants to hear more. Where I'm like, yeah, this is interesting because my mind is blown, but not because I agree with it. The same is true with Louis Farrakhan, who currently helms the Nation of Islam. While the Southern Poverty Law Center classifies him as a dangerous anti-Semite, much of his flock says he's just a little screwy and unfailingly magnanimous to them. When someone helps you when you're down or snowed in, it's almost impossible to regard them as a blight on the world. In fact, you're more likely to be overwhelmed with gratitude and convinced of the person's inherent goodness. Okay, so this woman really gets into the psychoanalytic approach of this neighbor when describing him. It's insane. I really thought this was satire. And I thought there was no way this is a real life person. So this Virginia compared a neighbor's act of kindness, which by the way did not seem transactional. I don't think he was trying to get anything from her, including loyalty. If he knew she was this batshit, I really think he would have probably avoided her at all costs. I mean, I'm sure we could get into the unconscious meanings of selfless acts, like maybe deep rooted into this Trump supporter. He's grooming her to one day ask her to join his Proud Boy militia group and wants this crazy person on his side. I don't think that's it though. I don't think he's doing this for any other reason except he saw how bad her driveway needed plowed and he has a plow. And sometimes people just are nice. She compares this man to Hezbollah, which is like an Islamic militia group of Iran, known for killing dozens and dozens of people in multiple bombings, suicide bombings. They were even connected to Lebanon's like largest sex trafficking or human prostitution ring. And if I'm not correct, I could be wrong about this, I'm pretty sure I'm correct, they were caught funneling drugs into the United States, tons of cocaine, which it was Obama's administration that let them off. So I wonder if she knew that. Then she compared this neighbor to Louis Farrakhan, which we're going to talk to him about him in a little bit as well. But if I'm not mistaken, he's considered a black nationalist and kind of a controversial figure. She compares these people to this Trump supporter who plowed her driveway. That's all this guy did. And he did a great job, she said. Her undeserving driveway. She did not deserve this act of kindness. So anyway, specifically, she says, when someone helps you when you're down or snowed in, it's almost impossible to regard them as blight on the world because they're so overwhelmed by gratitude that they'll be convinced that you're a good person, even pretty much saying, even though that you're not. This is real. This is real life. Like, I can't believe what I'm reading. 100% narcissistic mentality. This person is such a selfish, miserable woman that she doesn't even notice a selfless act when it pulls up into her driveway. You know how leftists will always call Trump supporters conspiracy theorists, because when you're too much of a conspiracy theorist, you start to lose sense of reality. She is no longer in reality. Just throwing that out there. So when she goes on another rant about her time, and then she goes on this rant about her time in France, because of course she has to bring that up, how the people who were housing her had a portrait of a Nazi, and when she asked them, why do you have this portrait of a Nazi? They said, well, these Nazis were actually kind to us and polite. Polis, because they're French. I believe that's the French word for polite. And she cried. And she said this is reminding her of them, that people actually think Nazis were polite. And we could probably get into that a little bit, about how Nazis were regular people, good people with morals at one point. At one point. And then they felt justified in all their nasty behavior because of propaganda and because of fallacies and because of false narratives and extreme agendas. That this woman seems to fit. Anyway, so then we continue the article. So when I accept generosity from my pandemic neighbors, acknowledging the legitimate kindness with a wave or a plate of cookies, am I also sealing us in as fellow travelers who are very polis to each other, but not so much to them? So now she's referring this whole situation to what happened with the Nazis. That if she accepts this generous act, is she no better than a Nazi? Loving your neighbor is evidently much easier when your neighborhood is full of people just like you. I don't even know who she's talking about right there. Is she talking about that he only plowed her driveway because she looks like him, because of the color of their skin? Or is she talking about herself? Because clearly it's much easier for her to have accepted this generous act of kindness if he had shared the same beliefs as her. I don't even know what she's referring to. She's either talking about herself or she's implying it about him. I think this woke leftist really felt she did something with this article, which is like the scariest part of it all, is like some people will actually resonate with her, but this whole thing is bleak. This might be the boss of leftists. It's at least one of them. She is right. Nazis historically were at one point good people, and so they got brainwashed by propaganda, and honestly sounds a lot like Heffercook over here. All right, so let's continue. What do we do about the Trumpites around us? Like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who spoke eloquently this week about her terrifying experience during the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. What is happening? It's like we're living in two different universes. I mean, this might be my favorite part of the article because it shows the alternate realities that we live in. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Alexandria Ocasio-Smollett lied about this eloquently delivered video about her terrifying experience at the Capitol. We find out that AOC was not even in the Capitol building. And I will say that Ben Shapiro gave her a good benefit of the doubt. He said, well, technically she never said that. She just acted like that. Sorry, omitting important information, borderline lying. But she did lie. And I'm sorry, Shapiro, you'll never see this, and I do like Ben Shapiro 95% of the time. But I have to disagree. When she talked about what happened at the Capitol a few weeks after what happened at the Capitol, she laid out a timeline that did not match up to the Capitol riots. She lied. Now, she's entitled to her feelings, and her feelings can't be fact-checked. I get that. She can be as scared as she wants, and maybe she really was that scared, but she made up things, and it was pretty insane. And I love how this Virginia believes her. And she didn't even realize. She must have missed that part. I'm sure she does not. I'm sure she does not follow any Trump supporters. I'm just taking a wild guess. So she probably didn't even realize the whole AOC thing was debunked and it was a hoax. AOC was never terrified. I guarantee it. I'm calling her a liar. Virginia continues. Americans are expected to forgive and forget before we've even stitched up our wounds. As a Trump supporter, I'm not expecting you to do anything. But they make up these make-believe expectations just so they can write some words. We're expected before we've even gotten our vaccines against the pandemic that former President Trump utterly failed to mitigate. You mean the vaccine that President Trump mitigated in an extremely short amount of time? In my opinion, too short. In my opinion, hasn't been researched enough. And what does getting a vaccine have to do with this story at all? It doesn't. So then she goes on about the Capitol a little bit more. And I swear, the objectophilic relationship between the Capitol windows and these people is so beyond me. I wish they had half that energy last summer when Black-owned businesses, small white-owned businesses, all these small-owned businesses were set on fire for 90 days straight. At least with conservatives, I mean, any conservative you watch, whether it's moderates like Tim Pool or extreme conservatives like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk, almost every single one of these conservative influencers have spoken out about the riots. They did all summer, and they did after the Capitol, including Trump. I haven't heard one of them make many, if any, excuses for the riots. Now, they might bring up what happened last summer because I think that's fair game. But they've been very consistent before and after the Capitol riots. Leftists have not. Burning buildings was okay during their agenda, but Capitol windows, not okay. I can't keep up with these people. So here's my response to my plowed driveway for now. Politely, but not profusely, I'll acknowledge the Sation move. With a wave and a thanks, a minimal start on building back trust. I'm not ready to knock on the door with a covered dish yet. Okay, Virginia, your cooking is probably as futile and yeasty as this entire article. But she says, I can offer a standing invitation to make amends. Not with a snowplow, but by recognizing the truth about Trump administration, and more important, by working for justice for all those whom the administration harmed. So, from what I'm getting here is, she's just going to start accepting the fact that Trump and his supporters are just awful people, and she's just going to have to get over it. The woke, by the way, they haven't brought justice for anybody. They think condemning everyone around them that didn't vote the way they suggested is justice, but it's not. This article is her definition of justice. She thinks she brought justice to the table by writing this arrogant article. Nobody, not one single person did this article help. And this is like the perception of the leftist narrative, by the way. So they compare Trump and his supporters to Nazis without giving examples. They'll give examples of Nazis, but they won't give examples about how this Trump supporter is a Nazi. They claim that the Trump administration harmed minorities. For instance, she says it right here in the article, point blank, but never gives good examples. And if I ever do see an example, it's usually easily debunked. Easily. Then I'm assuming this girl is white because obviously this Trump supporter with a plow would not have plowed her driveway if she wasn't. But she believes by spreading this nasty, hate-filled, arrogant, narcissistic perception, embarrassing piece of babble crap, she actually believes that she did justice. This is their weird narrative. She actually believes she did something here. She probably has the word coexist like tattooed on her forehead as well. And this is her way of coexisting. It's crap like this that made me vote for Trump, by the way. I hope this neighbor sees this story and just pushes her into the snow every chance he gets for the rest of the winter. And I do believe that this leftist agenda, this rhetoric is very narcissistic. Because just like imagine if you had a child, maybe you do have a child, and you told this child every single day that monsters were real. And sometimes they're even under your bed. That child would grow up in fear. But you as a parent come to save them every night, to put them to sleep, put them at ease. You're their blanket, you're their safety harness. This is narcissistic behavior. They want to be Black people's saviors so bad that they will literally create racism out of thin air. The left, quite honestly, they're as racist as it gets. And I'll get into that opinion more as time goes on. They are absolutely mind-blowing racist. So I have one more article I'm going to share for this podcast, and then I'm going to end it after this. And multiple things happened the last few weeks. But I'm going to just keep it to these two. So now, and talking about racism, now we're going to get into what happened at the Super Bowl. I swear, I thought this was satire too. They never fail to amaze me. It could not be more embarrassingly ridiculous enough. So this piece is an opinion piece from USA Today, and this was, I think, a few days before the Super Bowl, and it's an opinion piece, and it says, Tom Brady has gotten an undeserved pass for his past support of Donald Trump. Okay. Let's get into this. So it starts off with, Tom Brady was happy to talk politics until he wasn't. By the way, that sentence sums up pretty much the rest of this article, and it's because of that they think that Tom Brady is a white privileged jerk. Okay, continue. The Make America Great Again hat in his locker, which that's how everyone found out he was a Trump supporter, is his hat was in his locker 4 or 5 years ago. The flippant endorsement, which just is like the passively way of telling people that he endorses Trump, of then President-elect Donald Trump. Only when those ties become inconvenient did Brady decide he wanted to stick to sports. Now, I don't think Brady ever admitted like, hey, because you guys hate Trump so much, I'm going to stop talking about it. Tom Brady really didn't bring politics into the sports. He really didn't, except for the times that he's been asked, and the one time he put a Trump hat or a Make America Great Again hat in his locker. They can't get over the fact that this hat was in his locker while they were interviewing him. We'll get more into it. I swear, they can't get over it. These social justice warriors can't just understand that, yes, he's white, and it doesn't need to be brought up in every single situation. Brady's ability to enter and exit the debate at his choosing to shield himself from accountability is the height of white privilege. As this country grapples with the far reaches of systemic racism, because they are far reaches, look no further than Brady. There you go. If you don't believe in systemic racism, this is their way to show you that it exists. You just need to look at Tom Brady, for whom the expectations and allowances granted will always be different. So because Brady doesn't talk about Trump all the time, he's privileged. This writer needs help. Wokeness hit them so bad, it's like embarrassing. All right, so then they quote, "Whiteness is the benefit of the doubt," said David Leonard, author of Playing While White. "Privilege and power on and off the field. When Brady says, 'I was just given the hat,' or 'he's just a friend of mine,'" talking about Trump, or when he skips the White House and says, "I had different engagements," he gets the benefit of the doubt. He gets to be an individual. This is why we left the left, many of us. Individualism, not good. Collectivism, good. What that little paragraph also is trying to do is these are very basic acts. Him saying like, yeah, somebody gave me the hat. Yeah, he's my friend. Yeah, I had other things to do, so I didn't visit him at the White House. They're demonizing him for very ordinary reactions. But if he would have been toting that hat on the field every single day and visiting Trump on the weekends every weekend, they would have had a problem with that. So they're upset that Tom Brady isn't this huge, loud Trump supporter. They're upset because he's not a loud Trump supporter and he gets away with it. And he only gets away with it because he's white. It's truly unfathomable. He reaps the benefit that we as white Americans reap each and every day in different contexts. It's been about 5 years. This is how long they've been holding on to this grudge, 5 years. Since a MAGA hat had prime placement in Brady's locker, and he had replied, "I hope so. That would be great," when asked if his old golfing buddy Trump had what it took to be president. That is as simple of an answer as you can give someone. Yeah, that would be great. I hope he's a good president because I want him, to do better for this country. And they're mad about it. I don't get it. But with Brady playing in his 10th Super Bowl on Sunday, when his Tampa Bay Buccaneers will face the Kansas City Chiefs, the topic was raised anew by Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe, who said last week that no black athlete would have gotten the pass that Brady has. And this is a quote by Sharpe. LeBron James can never say, a prominent black athlete can never say, Minister Farrakhan is just my friend. They would try to cancel anybody with the just mere mention of Mr. Farrakhan's name. Really? They would? I don't believe that. And they even in this article, they say that Farrakhan is an anti-Semitic, homophobic leader of the Nation of Islam. That was a horrible example. Horrible. Again, this is the second time where they compare Trump or his supporters to an anti-Semitic and homophobic leader, but gives no proof as to why they actually believe that. This is why we always say when you hear something repeated over and over, it doesn't make it true. Because these leftists will read these articles and be like, 2 people in 1 week compared Trump to Mr. or Minister Farrakhan. It must be true. But they don't stop and wonder, well, why is it true? What's kind of ironic about this too is Farrakhan is a black supremacist that just as a reminder, the Virginia snow hoe that we just talked about, who demonized her Trump supporter, neighbor. They're using almost the same analogy in a way. But if LeBron James came out and said that police officers are hunting black people, oh wait, he did. And that's not true. And he was given a bunch of money for it. And when you have someone like Kaepernick, I really don't care that he kneels. I don't care. It bothers me this much. It doesn't. It really doesn't bother me. But I understand why it bothers other people. And he is not a good football player from my understanding. He's not that great. He made millions of dollars because of his message, which he used his platform voluntarily for. I don't really agree with kneeling to the flag. It doesn't change my day if he does it or not. And again, this is yet still another hypothetical that these people have to use in order to prove their point. The leftists don't even realize that racism is like an evil act. I don't think they realize that. They have cheapened the word racist so much that, like, honestly, people are just desensitized to it at this point. All right, but I'm going to move on. In theory, this writer says, it should not matter whether Brady supports Trump, AOC, or someone somewhere in between on the political spectrum. It's the first thing I've agreed with. But he says, in theory, he has a right to his private views. Is there a law that says our political views have to be private? Because I'm pretty sure the left does not obey that rule if it's a rule. But it was Brady himself. So just in case you almost thought Brady might be a victim in this story, no, Brady did this to himself, who chose to make those private views public. This whole thing is hilarious, honestly. So they just admit that he has the right to support Trump until he uses that right publicly. Then it's no longer okay. And then this is his fault that he is getting so much hate from these hateful people. Now, he might not have thought, they said, it would matter, since Trump's candidacy at that point was just seen as a stunt. But Brady has had the chance since, in fact, to clarify or walk back on his comments and has chosen not to. What comments? What did he say that was so terrible? Yeah, I hope he does well. I hope Trump does a good job. What comments are they even talking about? They don't even talk about the comments. And the comments that they mentioned aren't bad. He said, yeah, he's a friend of mine. Yeah, I hope he does a good job. Oh, God. At this, and they said that what they mentioned right after this is that he should have said something and taken back his support because the Super Bowl was 3 days after the Trump Muslim ban. But the insane part about this whole thing is it wasn't a Muslim ban. I've heard this Muslim ban rhetoric for years. There's no Muslim ban. It was a set of countries that, by the way, were deemed terrorist threats from the Obama administration. And when Trump took over, they decided to do immigration bans, mostly holds. They were 90-day bans on like Iraq, Syria, Iran, Libya, Somalia, and a couple, like 2 other countries. If it was a Muslim ban, they would have banned Indonesia, seeing as how Indonesia has the biggest majority of Muslim people. I'm not going to get into like debunking things, but just know that was not a Muslim ban. It was a ban on high-risk, high-profiled countries, thanks to Obama. So, anyway, continue. And yet again this week, less than a month after the deadly insurrection at the Capitol, which was incited by Trump, again, They tell you things, but they don't back it up. Why was this incited by Trump? Was it when he said, peacefully march to the Capitol? By the way, I was there at that rally live. I was at DC. He never once ever incited violence. Anyway, instead, Brady has been allowed to divorce himself from supporting Trump or being public about it. While black athletes are made to own their views, black athletes don't have to listen to journalists. Of course, they bring up Kaepernick, which that was voluntary by Kaepernick. What Kaepernick decided to use his platform was his choice. I'm not sure how to respond to hypothetical questions like that, Brady said Monday, when asked if he feels like he's gotten a pass for being a Trump supporter. I hope everyone can. We're in this position like I am to try to be the best I can be every day, as an athlete, as a player, as a person in my community, for my team, and so forth. So yeah, not sure what else. Even Brady, they say, Brady's aversion to talking about politics or current events itself is a form of privilege. So pretty much what they're saying, that Brady should be forced to talk about things he doesn't want to talk about. This is fascism, okay? This is why the left is as fascist as it gets. Brady could talk about it, and then these people would be upset that he's talking about it because he has a huge base and they don't want him influencing any more people. They would be upset. They don't have anything against Brady. Brady hasn't said anything crazy. They're just saying because he doesn't like to talk about who he supports, it's a form of privilege. Narcissism. So here's Brady simply saying how he doesn't know how to respond to these hypothetical questions, because they always use hypotheticals. It just blows my mind. So then the article continues, like other white athletes, Brady is seen as an individual in a way minority athletes never are. Because Megan Rapinoe is openly gay, she is always going to be asked to weigh in on issues affecting the LGBT community. Black and brown athletes are expected to have and share their opinions and experiences about racial injustice and discrimination. The thing that bothers me about this is they are expecting the same from Tom Brady. The thing is, Tom Brady refuses. And then he's called privileged. Megan Rapinoe could refuse. Black and brown athletes can refuse. They might be expected, just like Tom Brady is expected. Doesn't mean they have to do it. And honestly, who expects these minority athletes to share their opinions on experiences about racial injustice and discrimination? Who? The leftist media. They need to make sure that they're on board with their fascist ideologies so they know if they have to cancel them or not. Because I guarantee you, Trump supporters don't care. I want to know about Megan Rapinoe's soccer stats. I don't care that she's gay. And by the way, I'm gay. And I still don't care that she's gay. It continues. Patrick Mahomes was asked at last year's Super Bowl about being biracial. Well, then Patrick Mahomes should tell that journalist that he doesn't want to answer that question. But if he did say that, he would be a coon. This year, he's been asked about speaking out in the wake of George Floyd, the black man whose death at the knee of a white police officer sparked protests across the country. Everybody knows who George Floyd was. The fact that they had to feel it being necessary as if anybody forgot, these people are upset at the wrong group. They should be upset at the media. Why is the media always virtue signaling? Why does the media always have to bring race into everything? Why does the media look at minorities as though they have to explain anything? Their job is to win, to work hard, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear about Megan Rapone's opinion about LGBT issues. I don't care. And it continues. So, yeah, no one has asked Brady about the insurrection. Why would they? Could. They asked him about Trump. Well, they tried to. He just doesn't want to talk about it. First, you tell us that who you support should be private, and then you get upset that he's private about it. It makes no sense. I'm sorry. If you want to continue this article, I'll link it down below. But it's truly amazing the distance these people will go to try to prove that someone is racist. It's very rare that they actually use real life events. I don't know. But they don't have that type of anecdotal evidence or evidence at all. So they have to create hypotheticals in order to prove any of their points. You might think, well, that's just an article, no one's actually going to listen to that. No, people did. No, people resonate with this narrative, this agenda. It's so strange. So Tyrann Mathieu suggested on Twitter that Tom Brady called him something that he can't repeat. What is it? Tell us. Well, he couldn't, because then he found out Tom Brady was mic'd up the entire time. So then they would have proof if he said something or not. So he deleted the tweet. This is what happens when you create victims. They start becoming victims. And when they're not a victim, they make themselves into a victim. It's an art at this point. All right, I'm almost done. The last few screenshots I wanted to show. So that article was written before the Super Bowl. I heard from a couple sources that people at the White House cried when Tom Brady won because he's a Trump supporter. These people have lost their mind. This is on Twitter, so we can't expect the smartest group of people. But unite in justice for the poor and oppressed. Apparently, this is a blue checkmark page. I'm looking at it. I can't believe it. She goes, first of all, I don't know where folks got the idea that we judge athleticism based on number of trophies or rings someone has, especially in case of team sports. Secondly, Muhammad Ali, Tiger Woods, and Serena Williams, all have more significant victories over an extended time in a solo sport. What? Okay. These people have no boundaries. I wonder why she didn't say LeBron James or Michael Jordan. She talks about what she's getting at race. Obviously, she had 3 black people that she mentioned. And she's upset that Tom Brady's white. And she uses her own ammo against her. I'm legit not saying this just to shade Tom Brady, but folks are way out of pocket with this greatest athlete combo. The dude is 3 years old and has more Super Bowl rings than anyone. And it's not like he was the kicker. He's the quarterback. And I'm pretty sure he already broke records with the new team he's on. He's already the playoff leader in passing touchdowns. And it's his first year. So yeah, Tom Brady is pretty good. I don't know much about sports, but I don't know many athletes. And I'll say, when I do think of athletes, I do think of Michael Jordan. I do think of Tiger Woods. Maybe not Tiger Woods, but I do think of LeBron James. I don't think of just white people. But we live in a society where we should only be focused on the black athletes. Because as privileged as they are, they're still oppressed. This is where the hypocrisy comes in. She first is upset that people are calling him one of the greatest athletes. But then then she says Tom Brady is statistically one of the greatest quarterbacks. in a league that consistently denies black athletes an opportunity to play. Does she provide statistical evidence of this? Absolutely not. To play as a quarterback to this day. That's the most accurate description of his position in both NFL history and the position of the NFL relative to sports history overall. There's an enormous amount of racial undertones, not proof, but undertones to this entire convo about Brady being the best athlete of all time in a way that willfully ignores black athletes, past and present, as well as the ongoing systemic discrimination against black athletes in the quarterback positions. What? I like this guy. God Saeed, replying to one of her tweets. He goes, absolutely. Great black athletes have been completely ignored. It's only because of my attending an immersive BLM seminar that I ever heard of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Emmett Smith, Kobe Bryant, Jerry Rice, and the other 13 trillion top black athletes. Seriously, when I think of good athletes, most of them are black. But I can't say Tom Brady's good. No, I'd be a racist. I think it's my understanding that Ben Shapiro considered Tom Brady a GOAT. Stance Grounded, SJP, whatever, states GOAT was created as an acronym by the wife of the late boxer and civil rights icon Muhammad Ali, Lonnie Ali. Don't use it to describe racist Tom Brady, who wanted to make America great again. Carrying one of these hats might as well have walked around with a Klan outfit and a white hood. Again, no substance to these accusations. They just repeat, and repeat. I guess the acronym GOAT is cultural appropriation these days. Eliza Orlins, I think she's like running to be a DA. She goes, watching the Super Bowl and seeing so many people in one place is making my heart race. Stop watching the Super Bowl. This feels unsafe. And I guess I'm rooting for the team with the racist name over the team with the Trump-loving quarterback in a sport that still hasn't apologized to Colin Kaepernick. Thank you for watching this. I hope I am not alone. I know I'm not, but these people have lost their minds. I am truly afraid of what our future generations are gonna be like. But I hope you find the insanity and the hypocrisy and I think they're self-hating, truly. I think they are so racist, they can't handle it, that they have to shift gears to everybody else as being a racist. And it's just mind-blowing. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to try to get better at podcasts. My old podcast, I had other people with me, so it was a little different. But pretty much all this is going to be is me complaining about how much I hate leftists. And sometimes conservatives make me mad too, but usually they don't have a mob of people agreeing with them. Like, if a conservative says something upsetting, usually you don't have so many people agreeing with them. Usually it's more like, well, it's freedom of speech, but we don't agree with that. I don't know. But I will try to do this once a week and then go from there. And if you are into conspiracy theories, I'll link my Bitchute down below. Thanks, guys, so much. And I enjoy doing these things, so hopefully I will do another one. And I appreciate you listening to me complain about these crazy people. Thanks.
Hey guys, my sister just called me. She's on a date. She's coming home early. Apparently it didn't go so well. Oh my gosh, I wonder what happened. happened?
He was liberal.
What? How do you know?
He asked me what I identify as.
What'd you say?
He's conservative. Dude, never again. I'm like,
Show me a video of you telling me you're drunk without actually telling me you're drunk.
Back by popular demand. This is part 2 of me reading liberals' comments on the Super Bowl and about how Tom Brady is racist. If you like it, let me know and I can make more.
The Super Bowl shouldn't be happening because we're still in a goddamn pandemic. The Chiefs' city/name and mascot are racist, and Tom Brady is a piece of shit. All the most racist people I know love Tom Brady.
Is he a racist?
I don't really know, but I feel comfortable saying yes. Putting Tom Brady over LeBron and Michael Jordan, etc. is racist. Rooting for Tom Brady ever just feels racist, to be honest. My Super Bowl tradition is rooting for the least racist mascot, but between the Chiefs and Tom Brady, it's pretty much a wash. You can't support Black History Month and root for MAGA Tom Brady over Patrick Mahomes. It feels racist.
Go Bucks.